May 14, 1968, Los Angeles. At Cedars-Sinai Hospital, an old man was taking his final breath. He was 82 years old. They called him the Voice. He had mesmerized the world with his singing. But that voice didn't just sing songs. It whispered secrets. Frank Sinatra died that day, the owner of My Way, the king of the Rat Pack, one of Hollywood's most powerful men. But the real power was behind him, because Frank Sinatra's career was built on a deal with the mafia. They helped him rise. In return, Frank served them. He made JFK president. But in the end, everyone abandoned him, and that legendary voice faded into silence. Before we reveal how Frank Sinatra's career was built on a deal with the mob, hit subscribe for more shocking untold stories of legends who owed everything to the underworld. Francis Albert Sinatra was born on December 12, 1915 in Hoboken, New Jersey. He was a child of Italian immigrant parents. His father Anthony was a firefighter. His mother Dolly was a powerful woman. Dolly was influential in the neighborhood. She had political connections, and she was involved in illegal activities. Frank grew up in that world, on the streets, among the mobsters. As a child, he was shy, but when he sang, he transformed. His voice was powerful, emotional. In the 1930s, Frank started singing in local bars. In 1939, he joined the Harry James Orchestra, then moved to the Tommy Dorsey Orchestra. With Dorsey, Frank became famous. I'll Never Smile Again became a hit. But Dorsey had Frank locked in a contract. He was taking a large portion of his earnings. Frank wanted to escape, but Dorsey wouldn't let him. And right at that moment, a Meg stood in. Willie Moretti, mafia boss. Willie was an old friend of Frank's mother and had mob connections. Willie visited Dorsey, put a gun on the table. "Release Frank from his contract," he said, "or you'll never sing again." Dorsey agreed. Frank was free. But now Frank owed the mafia. In the 1940s, Frank started his solo career, the Sinatra Mania era. Young girls would scream at his concerts, faint. Frank was the country's most famous singer. He was making films, playing on the radio every day. But at the same time, he was married to someone, Nancy Barbato, his first wife. They married in 1940. They had 3 children, Nancy Jr., Frank Jr., and Tina. But Frank couldn't stay faithful. He constantly had affairs with other women. In 1949, he met Eva Gardner, famous, beautiful, dangerous. Frank fell in love with her, left Nancy. They divorced in 1951. The same year, he married Eva, second marriage. But this marriage was chaotic. They constantly fought. Frank was jealous. Eva was independent. They divorced in 1957. But Frank never forgot Eva. In the early 1950s, Frank's career collapsed. His voice became hoarse. Columbia Records fired him. Films flopped. Frank needed money. He was desperate. In 1953, he begged for a small role in From Here to Eternity. The studio didn't want him. Frank is finished, they said. But then someone stepped in. The mafia again. Producer Harry Cohn was pressured. Frank got the role. The film was released. Frank's performance was perfect. In 1954, he won an Oscar, Best Supporting Actor. Frank was back, and this time stronger. He signed with Capitol Records, Songs for Young Lovers, In the Wee Small Hours. Frank wasn't just a singer anymore, he had become an icon. In the late 1950s, the Rat Pack was born. Frank, Dean Martin, Sammy Davis Jr., Peter Lawford, Joey Bishop. They did shows in Las Vegas, sang, joked around, drank. The Rat Pack was the definition of cool, and Frank was the leader. But behind the Rat Pack was a dark world. Las Vegas was controlled by the mafia at that time. Casinos, hotels, everything. Frank was friends with mafia bosses. Sam Giancana was his closest. Sam was the boss of the Chicago outfit. Murders, extortion, casino control. Frank and Sam spent time together, shared women. In 1960, Sam asked Frank for a favor, make John F. Kennedy president. JFK was running for president, handsome, charismatic, but winning the election would be difficult, especially in critical states. Sam Giancana told Frank, support JFK. We'll arrange the election. Frank agreed. He helped JFK's campaign. The Rat Pack gave concerts for JFK, raised money, and Sam Giancana interfered with votes in Chicago. The 1960 election was very close, but JFK won. Frank was proud. We made him president, he'd say. JFK's sister Patricia was married to Peter Lawford, a Rat Pack member. Frank was close to the White House, but there was a problem. JFK's brother Robert Kennedy was Attorney General. Bobby Kennedy had declared war on organized crime, and his target was Sam Giancana. Sam went to Frank, "Tell JFK to stop Bobby." Frank tried, but JFK wouldn't listen. "Sorry, Frank, but Bobby is right. We have to cut ties with the mob." Frank was shocked, then angry. Sam Giancana was even angrier. "He used us," he said. "Now he's destroying us." In 1962, everything exploded. The FBI was following Sam Giancana, had planted listening devices. The recordings mentioned Frank Sinatra's name, JFK's name, and one woman's name, Judith Campbell. Judith was a woman Frank had introduced. She had relationships with both JFK and Sam Giancana. It could become a scandal. The White House panicked. JFK distanced himself from Frank. No more phone calls. No more invitations. Frank felt betrayed. In 1963, JFK was killed in Dallas. Did the mafia have a hand in it? Nobody knows for sure. But it was known that Sam Giancana wanted revenge on JFK. Frank never talked about it, took the secrets to his grave. In the late 1960s, Frank married for the third time, to Mia Farrow. Mia was 21, Frank was 50. The relationship was strange, a young girl with an old man. They divorced in 1968. It lasted only 2 years. In 1976 came the fourth and final marriage, to Barbara Marx. Barbara was a wealthy socialite, strong, intelligent. She was the only woman who could control Frank. The marriage lasted 22 years. They were still married when Frank died. In the 1980s, Frank wanted to retire, but he couldn't, because singing was the only thing he knew. He gave concerts, but he no longer had his old voice. He was tired. In the 1990s, his health deteriorated. He had a heart attack. Dementia began. In 1998, he gave his final concert in Palm Springs. His voice trembled. He mixed up lyrics, but he still got applause. On the night of May 14, 1998, Frank had a heart attack at home. He was rushed to the hospital, but he couldn't be saved. He died at 82 years old. The news spread around the world. Frank Sinatra was gone. His funeral was held in Beverly Hills. Celebrities came, old friends, family, but many were missing. Sam Giancana had been murdered in 1975, shot in his own home. Dean Martin had died in 1995, Sammy Davis Jr. in 1990. The Rat Pack was gone. The era was over. Frank Sinatra was a legend. He sang "My Way." I did it my way. But in reality, Frank never did it his way. The mafia guided him. Hollywood used him. JFK abandoned him. Frank seemed powerful, but actually, he was always dependent on others. His voice changed the world, but he could never save himself. Perhaps the most tragic part was this: Frank remained loyal to the end. To the mafia, to his friends, to his secrets. But what did he get in return? Loneliness. He died at 82, famous, wealthy, but alone. Because Frank Sinatra's life was based on a deal, and that deal lasted forever. Years later, a journalist asked Tina Sinatra, "What was your father's biggest regret?" She paused for a long time, then said that he could never be free. And that was the truth. Frank Sinatra had the most beautiful voice in the world, but he never had a voice of his own. He sang for others, performed for others, lived for others. And when that voice finally fell silent, the world mourned. But Frank was finally free. Free from the stage, free from the deals, free from the secrets. In that, Frank Sinatra finally did it his way.